is NPU Live, and I'm Keri Rodriguez. Thanks for being with us this morning.
And I'm Tim Langan.
So nice to be with you on a beautiful Tuesday morning.
Best Tuesday ever.
Best Tuesday ever, because we are loving being in conversation with you every morning as we enter week 9 of the quarantine. That's right. So lots of exciting guests this morning. A lot of people to talk to. I'm going to be talking about a tough situation with my boys this morning. But we're talking about worry. Worry, worry, worry. That's the theme of today.
I think people are worrying more than ever now.
They are. I've been a little worrywart. Have you been a worrywart?
You think so? Yeah, I'd say.
Well, you typically, in terms of the balance here.
Please tell more. Please
expand.
Expand on that statement.
You get a little worried sometimes.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I just have to make sure things are going well, but please go on with the show.
I mean, I would say, 90% of the time you are on a spiritual plane, but you
Good
to worry a little bit. But I typically, don't get too worried. I plow ahead. But the last couple of weeks have been really hard. Really hard. Like the sleepless nights a little bit, worrying about things that haven't even happened. Like, I don't know. And we know our little kids, our little boys are worried too. They come up with the most interesting things to be worried about sometimes too. So we're going to be exploring that with Mira Brown from Prepared Parents this morning. And just talking overall, but again, referencing our survey that came out last Friday, very interesting. No matter how much support or information comes from teachers and other educators, parents know that this pandemic is having a real impact on children's health, mental health. Schools have to make this a priority after quarantine. We're going to be dealing with some kids who are pretty shaken up, a little change of life when it comes to the quarantine. So 75% of parents in our poll this past week say they are worried about how the situation is affecting their child's mental health and emotional well-being. I got some worries about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I just know my son Max, he loves school. He's off his routine. He's a guy who needs a routine, loves a routine. And it's bumming him out that he can't see his friends.
Yeah, and you think about the bonds that our kids have at school, but we also think about the fact that, it's just walking down the street, not being able to go to the store, not being able to do the normal things that you do with even your mom or dad on the weekend. Having to wear a mask on your face, everywhere you go. And, as we've shared before, just walking down the street sometimes in that act of saying, instead of just skipping down the street or running down the street as little boys often do, there's that yank back.
You have to walk all around.
Yeah, be careful. Oh my God, don't be careful. Somebody might be coming. It's like injecting that fear factor into our kids. So we're going to be exploring that with Mira. I have a feeling she might have some strategies.
I think she might help us out today. She tends to help us out.
She always does. So I'm glad for that. So Tim, what else is happening today?
Lots going on in the world today. Again, COVID-19.
Your daily update.
1.38 million cases and 81,491 confirmed deaths.
Stunning.
It's and while people are opening up, Dr. Fauci, one of the few people I listen to about this, is saying he's warning of needless suffering and death if we're not going to follow precautions and if we open up too soon.
Yeah, a lot of conversations happening nationally about opening too soon, what this looks like, planning for a second wave, what's happening in the White House, the fact that COVID-19 is literally in the West Wing, and folks not wearing masks even there just to kind of prove something. And that's what's really. I was talking to some reporters yesterday with USA Today and US News about this in particular, about how this need to prove, like this false bravado that we're going to show you, we're going to open up, we're going to get you, virus. The virus doesn't care. The virus is going to come. It doesn't matter. American exceptionalism, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. What really matters, and that's why I think we're seeing in our own polling that parents are really worried, is really putting the health and well-being of our children and our families first. So as these things reopen, and we're seeing some of these national numbers that Tim is giving us every single morning. I was actually listening to something very interesting yesterday where they were talking about the fact that because New York and the tri-state area, and frankly Massachusetts as well, has done such a great job at really flattening the curve. You're seeing a lot of hospitalizations go down in these areas. It's mitigating some of the numbers that you see skyrocketing in these states that are opening that are less popular.
That's right.
So when we take a look at the whole national picture, it doesn't really tell the full story. If we were able to kind of aggregate the numbers and take out the tri-state area and just take a look at whether or not numbers are going up and down in the rest of the states, it's really a troubling trend. So unfortunately, I hope these states are not going to have to learn a tough lesson by, being directly devastated by the impact of COVID-19. But
well, I know where I'm at, and I know right now I am not going to any movie theaters. I'm not going into Target. Stay away, please. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
No hair salons, no nail salons.
No, none for me. And again, here we go again. Sports. They're trying to start sports again in the summer, and I love baseball a lot, but MLB, Major League Baseball, is going to open up in July, tentatively right now. 80-game schedule, expanded playoffs, but no audience. No audience. Which, I mean, sounds okay to me, but you still have players, you still have people there.
Yeah, I think they're just thinking about, how do we get this up on TV and save ad revenue?
Right, exactly.
Again, it's like the economic urgency, overriding what is, an unprecedented health challenge. And we get it, but first things first, people, we gotta stay safe. You can't watch a baseball game if you're not alive, is the thing.
That's right.
Just saying.
It's true.
Anyway, what else we got today?
Well, you know what? Again, it's all about keeping our family safe. Our children safe. And this week, that we talked about before, the National Parents Union is partnering with Parents Forum for the International Day of Families. And
that's right. This is a United Nations celebration celebrating families across the globe. So we're really excited to be a part of this.
That's right.
And partnering with Parents Forum to make sure that we have programming available all day in celebration of this historic event. But it'll be in English, Spanish, French, Arabic, and Mandarin. So
that's right. It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
It's going to be great. Also, too, talking about things that have been delayed. Our routines have been thrown off. I think, for adults and older kids too, all those high school seniors who won't be flipping over their cap, the tassel? The tassel. So we're also working with the XQ Institute, who's putting together Graduate Together 2020.
Yeah, this is the Barack Obama commencement.
That's right.
That's right. And you can catch it right here on the National Parents Union Facebook Live.
That's right.
We're putting that up.
That's right.
Very exciting.
It'll be broadcast nationally. The LeBron James Foundation is working with this as well. It's a tribute to high school seniors, teachers, and also to all the supportive families out there. And it's really going to provide a wonderful sense of unity.
I saw one daddy in Georgia who said, you know what, COVID-19, you are not ruining this day for my baby. He set up a stage in his front yard and he got a cap and gown.
Nice.
He said, this is going to happen for you, baby.
Well, he's been waiting for it too.
That's right. It's a historic moment for families.
That's right.
To go there, but and to celebrate high school graduation. Yeah. So, really inspired by the fact that the Obamas are stepping up.
That's right. Anytime I can be reminded of the Obamas, I'll take it. So go to graduatetogether2020.com. There you'll see a virtual yearbook. You can also load a commencement message, submit a brief commencement message, and get a chance to win $5,000. And also to share the hashtag Graduate Together.
Wonderful.
It's going to be great.
Support. Hey, if you could put up your class picture. I saw all of you on Facebook putting up your class picture. I think you just remembering when you were young and cute.
I remember that.
High school. By the way, on Facebook you can catch Tim's graduation photo. We put it up there. It's very cute, very handsome.
My graduation. Oh, that's right. That's right. It was the year, and it wasn't like me with the cap and gown, but it was
under duress. I had to run game around him.
Not really under duress, without my knowledge.
Yes,
it's more like it. Behind my back.
I'm not doing that. Oh, I don't know.
I don't think you have a choice there.
And see what she's got upstairs.
Oh man.
Anyway, so glad that you're with us, and glad that we have Mira Brown in our lives, joining us from Austin, Texas. She is going to be popping up and giving us some tips for the day.
That's right. She's waking up
You can find her website, preparedforsuccess.org or preparedparents.org. Mira, how was your Mother's Day? Did you enjoy the weekend?
I did. We had beautiful weather here, which is kind of par for the course here in May. I will.
Actual oven, isn't it like 850 degrees there now?
It was, and then this weekend it was just 80 degrees and sunny with like wind blowing through. I mean, it was amazing. And so I had a great Mother's Day. I will laugh though. It had nothing to do with my kids, meaning like, which maybe made it for a really good Mother's Day, but like Ben let me, I stayed up the night before. I'm a night owl naturally, and I never get to like enjoy that anymore because one, I'm just too tired and I fall asleep on the couch. Or two, what's the point? I'm going to be up either in the middle of the night or like early in the morning with the kids. And so I was like, can I just Saturday night lay on the couch and just
Be awake.
and so I stayed up to like 1 a.m. and which I never do anymore. And it was really, really nice.
What did
I
you watch?
watched like Real Housewives of New York City. I watched I watched Troop Zero, which is on like Amazon. I mean, I just watched ridiculous. It was great.
You got to try 90 Day Fiance. That
Okay.
is, oh man, it is.
Like no comment.
I think I very rarely like stop. Like I'm not a big TV person, but when I do, I go all in for like the biggest hot mess garbage I can find.
Yeah. Exactly. It's got to be mindless. I don't want to think. Like if I get to do it, I don't want. I mean, I love me some like good documentaries and things that make me think. No, I went all in on Real Housewives. Like it was just pure. And then I stepped in. It was great. So I did come down. I was telling Tim before we went live, I came downstairs and I'm thinking like late, probably at like 9, 10 a.m. And I'm feeling good because I got to sleep in. And I come down and I'm like, hi, to my kids. And Gabe's like, hey. I'm like, mommy hug. No. And then like with the toddler, I'm like, Maya runs the other direction. I was like,
another day with you, lady. I was very excited. I was woken up to a rousing rendition of I'll Always Love My Mama. And then I had a beautiful breakfast of spinach eggs. I'm obsessed with it. And I had like, oh my God, it was so good. So yummy.
Even though it was canned. It was canned
spinach. It was canned from Tim's Pantry of Love.
Pantry of Love, my bomb shelter of love.
And made me bacon and eggs and cinnamon rolls. So there's that good breakfast. There's something to that for sure.
So not
good
so
job.
Happy
Mother's Day to you.
A lot of moms just going for a walk alone. Like up here the Arboretum, like I saw a lot of moms saying, I'm going to be by myself for about 30 minutes. And that's going to be it.
I'm sorry, relative sighting. I saw a relative sighting.
Yeah.
No, it's something broke in our kitchen. And the guys are here with their masks and their gloves. So I'm sorry if you hear.
No, I don't mind. I've been trying to catch either your brother-in-law or your husband for 2 months now.
No. I can move this just slightly. No, they're trying to fix it so we can use our kitchen again.
Well, Mira, we're so glad that you're here this morning and glad that we're talking about worry because our survey we found that 55% of parents are very worried. And I want to talk to you too. I know you were aware because I posted these up on Facebook. I needed some mama love. We had a little incident last week.
I was wondering.
A little incident last week that I'm going to share with the audience because I'm hoping I need some advice.
Let's let them in the bubble.
Solidarity. I'm going to let you in my little mommy bubble because I don't know. Some people have like the perception that like I've got this stuff all figured out. Let me tell you something. I have nothing figured out. in deep need of.
Neither do I.
Mother. So 3 little boys, right, who are obsessed with Fortnite. And I've shared before that I am not above bribery, and in order to get them to do their schoolwork, they and make sure that they're behaving. I bribe them with V-Bucks, which are like the little game tokens so you can buy skins and I don't know, whatever else they buy in Fortnite. So, we every week take a look at whether or not, how did we do at school this week? How did we do, helping around the house? Did you do your chores? Were you well behaved? Were you like a good human being? You know, the whole package. Did you all of those things? And if you meet the criteria, which is, you know, however mom is feeling at that moment,
right.
you know, you get rewarded with V-Bucks. It's like allowance, right? Well, those V-Bucks are awarded by me using my Apple ID. And so I plug them in, and I also need to use my Apple ID to update their iPads and all their little devices, their iPods. Well, I had given them my Apple ID because they were down with their Nana on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
And so they needed to update their iPad. So they used my Apple ID to update the apps. Not buy anything, update the apps. Well, they took it upon themselves to run up a $1,200 charge of V-Bucks. $1,200.
I thought you're gonna be like $20, $1,200.
Dollars on my credit card.
It was bad. It was a bad scene. It was a bad night.
So I think it was 10 o'clock at night.
It was about 11:30.
Oh, I am going through and I'm seeing charge Apple.
And you're probably like, this must be fraudulent, right? Like someone must have my credit card.
And at first I was like, oh my gosh, somebody got my credit card. I'm going to call the bank. I'm going to put a hold on my card, the whole thing. No, but I see 32 times. They have 32 times my children hit the Apple ID over and over and over and over and over again. $1,200 they ran up in charges. And I was so upset. Like I started crying. I was like, oh my God, because I realized what they did. And I was like, how am I going to handle this? Oh my goodness. And so I slept on it, and we had a very hard conversation the next day, you know, and there was not any yelling. I didn't yell.
No.
But I just said to them, you know, I am so disappointed with you. You have hurt my feelings. We're big about, we have friendships with each other. So I say, you know, you really hurt our friendship. And, you know, I'm very hurt and I'm very upset and I'm very sad that you would do this, not just because it's a lot of money, because it is a lot of money. We talked about how much money that is. And frankly, I don't think, you know, maliciously they knew like how much money when you hit the button.
Right.
I think they were just hitting the button and running up their V-Bucks. I said, you know, you're taking something from mommy and you're not earning it. And we, you know what this, you know, how important it is that you earn this, that you do the right things. And, you know,
Trust. It's a trust factor too.
All of those things. So they wrote me letters. They wrote me handwritten letters of apology. Unprompted. I didn't tell them to do this, but, you know, I'll hold up Miles because you can see it a little bit better. But it was heartbreaking, this letter. It says, "Dear Mom, I'm sorry for wasting your money. You gave me a code for something I needed to update and I used it for getting things in the game. I'm sorry for hurting your feelings and making you sad. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please trust me to be a good person again. I love you to the moon and back. Love, Miles." Now, that broke me a little bit because
You were almost more upset over that than you were about finding out $1,200 had been spent on V-Bucks, actually.
Because while this was it was a bad thing to do. They done wrong, you know, and there's going to be
bad choice. Yep.
Going to have consequences. They're going to have to earn back the money. We have a chart where they're going to have to do, each one is doing 300 chores for me and 300 chores for Nana. And that's like a weird thing. It's going to take them all summer to do it, but they're going to.
Vivette Dukes has canceled Christmas for them, by the way. So hello, you have Vivette Dukes. So Angela's from all the way in Puerto Rico has passed out. And Tashfir in Jersey is just storming the streets, smashing windows. So
ladies, like I ate $1,200.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
But Mira, like this one line, please trust me to be a good person.
I know that would.
Oh, my Miles, who's like a little worry wart and takes everything into his heart. Like he's my sensitive boy, sweetheart.
Yes.
I know he's worried, and frankly, the last like every time I talk to him now, he's got like this little look on his.
Oh.
Like, and it's almost a week later, and he's still like, like my mom doesn't think I'm a good person, and I'm worried that I went too far, where he thinks that I question whether
We'll talk about Miles's look later. He kind of knows what he's doing there.
Oh, Tim has another. That is another. So I saw that on Facebook over the weekend, and I read it, and my reaction was actually a little bit different. Now, I'm not the mom in the situation, right? So it's so easy to have a completely different reaction. I did not know it was $1,200 though. I thought, again, it was like $20, $50, maybe $100. But I actually, if you're unprompted, your kids came together because they both wrote letters, took a moment to actually like have a little self-awareness and like reflect on what happened and like write it down, record it, and give it to you. Like that's something you should be proud of. Now I understand sort of the good part, like the language around wanting to be a good person and ensuring our kids know that, making an ill-informed choice or a bad choice has nothing to do about whether you're a good person or not, right? Like not a good person. But I think developmentally, like that, right? That's something that we can talk about. But Keri, I don't know, like your kids came together and they recognized what had happened and they had a conversation about it and they took time to sit down and like write you a letter, and like I think that's something you should be very proud of, personally. But we could talk about worrying because that is different.
Writing was very good. We had complete sentences.
That's right.
Beautiful.
It was very well written.
But mommy was worried that I had put too much worry on. I'm like, it's this worry spiral.
I know.
All worried, and I think we started off talking about like we're in this pressure cooker. We're worried about things that are real and not real. All of these things. So we're hoping we can.
And some of us are natural, and I think there's two things here, and I want to talk about worrying a little bit on two fronts, and they're going to get a little conflated because we are in a very unique moment in time right now, living through a pandemic. But so I'll give you. So my son's a worrier, and we've talked about this. He's up every single night. Either having a nightmare or a fear of something or worrying about something. Last night I got a double dose of Miles. It was like a party at 3 a.m. It was Miles up at my toddler up for I don't know what, and then Gabriel was up, and so Gabriel had to come with me into the toddler's room because he didn't want to be alone, worried and fearful in his room. And so literally it was like a party with my two boys at 3 o'clock in the morning. But there's worries around, that come out as questions every day. And I don't, and I think all parents sort of face this. I think there's like the natural curiosity questions. And then I think there's the, from Gabriel, what happens if a tornado comes? Like what, like, when have you ever been in a tornado? Like, where did this this worry of tornadoes come from,
I identify with that though, because when I was his age, I was really worried about floods. And
that's his other one.
I had seen a flood on TV, like it was on the news, and I caught it for like 2 seconds, and I was convinced. We lived at the top of a hill, and I was terrified that a flood was going to come, and I would run around to every faucet in our house that it was tight, and God forbid that stupid national broadcast test come on. I was convinced that was the signal that that this is a test. It's emergency broadcast.
Yes.
That's the sign that the flood is coming right now. Oh my God.
I thought that there was an eclipse one year when I was in first grade, and I thought an eclipse meant that that Earth was going to go into the sun.
But and these are like kids naturally, and so I think that there's something interesting about that because developmentally, kids naturally worry about things. It's part of how they develop and how they learn, right? So babies are, and worries turn into fears, right? So like babies they go through stranger danger, right? Like someone unknown comes in right as they're developing. Preschoolers become scared of the dark. School age kids start fearing social interactions or tests or whatever it might be. And by age, what's interesting is around age 8 or 9, that's when fear can sort of start taking on sort of a life of its own, and the reaction to uncertainty or the reaction to the unknown becomes the go-to coping mechanism, right? And that's where worriers, the term, worry warts, as you were saying, and worriers sort of, as a parent, you want to start to sort of think about, okay, how do I help my kid with these coping mechanisms? And so I say all that because questions are good. Like, that's how kids learn, right? They ask questions. However, you can tell the difference, I think, as a parent between a natural question and then something that your kids start to like ruminate over and worry, and that worry turns to just anxiety, right? That they sort of carry with them. And now, like, I'm getting questions like, what happens if I don't wash my hands? Or what if I stand this close and not this close, mom? And these are not, I know my son well enough to know that these are becoming worries that are leading to additional anxiety, and are not just sort of natural questions that are helping him sort of with his curiosity and his learning. And interestingly, like, to know about that is, worrying runs in families. Like, a lot of things that we pass on to that our kids come by honestly, worrying is one of them, and so we used to joke about my dad that, the expression that the glass is half full, the glass is half empty, which one are you type of thing, half full, half empty. And for my dad, we used to joke, my poor father, but we used to joke that, like, there was no water in the glass. Like, that's how, like, not half full, not half empty. There was just, he worried away that water. There was no water, and like, that's how much he worried. And there were things in my childhood, when I think back to it, that he had every right to worry about. Like, there was things that happened, and but that worry started manifesting itself into everything became a worry. And then that becomes a coping strategy, right? And so it's sort of our go-to effort in uncertainty. And what's really interesting is the brain, and where we have to sort of be careful, I think, as parents, is the brain is wired to react with fear when we don't know what's going to happen, right? Which is why developmentally those things happen in our kids. And what's so interesting, I think, about that is that the less information we have, the more irrational and sort of erratic our decisions become and our worries become. And in some ways, you would think it would be the opposite, right? Like the less information, the more careful you might be. Typical to like human nature, right? We go into the opposite direction, and our worries and our anxiety and our fears become more and more. And so there are lots of good things, as always, that come with our little ones that worry, and us who are for worries, right? They're generally more sensitive. You were saying, Keri, about Miles being very sensitive. They're generally more sensitive. They have big imaginations. They're really creative. They're actually generally good planners. And when harnessed, right, it can be harnessed into that. When not, that's when we have sort of a challenge on our hands. And so here's sort of two recommendations, or a couple recommendations I wanted to give. And I know we're sort of running low on time. There's a ton in the actual tip on preparedforsuccess.org. I'm not going to go through every step of it, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things in there. And so there's how you respond to the worry as a parent. And then there's the actual like proactive work you can do as a family to sort of calm our stress and anxiety. And I want to touch on both because I think that they're equally important. I'm sort of curious for you all. I feel like there's sort of two general ways that at least I and people respond to their kids' worry. They either, and I'm super curious, Keri, see if you do this, like you either over-engage in the worry, right? And you sort of take it on yourself as the parent, which sometimes can actually it's like adding credibility to the worry in some ways and sort of legitimizing it a little too much. And then your kid's like, oh, maybe this is something I should worry about, right? Because as a parent, you're sort of worrying with them because you want to recognize it. Like that's what you're trying to do. Or you do the opposite and you're like, snap out of it. It's fine. It's nothing to worry about, right? And then your kid sort of feels shut off, right? And
very interesting. So what I have learned works really well with my kids, especially because they dealt with grief and loss and losing their dad like that. There was like a lot of worry. And when your dad was very, very sick, lot of big worries. So I feel like we're kind of well prepared in coping with things we can control and things we can't control, and make sense to worry about things that we're not in control of, and what can we do. I think the most important thing that I have learned is just kind of giving them space.
Yep.
And if you have multiple kids, most people have multiple kids. I feel like giving them that mattering time. Like at the end of the day, what I like to do, especially with my Miles, who is my worrier, is I bring him in my bed and say, were there things that you wanted to talk about with mommy today that you were thinking of, you didn't have a chance to say to me that you want to talk about right now? And then letting them kind of, because they know that not to me about anything, but like letting them kind of do their own processing. And then if there's something big that they feel like they can't process by themselves, like they get me one-on-one. It's not like with their little like doing the dance and like their big brother like complaining about something. It's just my time with Miley. And if he has worries and he has big feelings or whatever, he'll talk to me. But the most important part about that is not, I don't think you should ever, and it never worked for me, telling them don't worry.
Yeah. Because it's there. They're already worrying about it. Yeah.
Tell them not to worry. It's like you're dismissing them. Right. You're making them like, okay, well, tell me about your worries. Like, because if you tell mommy, then I can help you think about, what these feelings feel like, and we can work on it together. And, sometimes they're rational things. Sometimes they're not rational things. My guys have had to, again, deal with some pretty heavy, but I think just, having that time where like you're processing their worry, but that, it's okay to be honest, and like that mattering time, like, which I didn't know was mattering time when I was doing it. Right. I just thought it was like, everybody needs 5 minutes with mom, on a trip. Yeah.
But that's super important, because you're exactly right. And like you are, as a parent, you're giving them, it's like, there's the in the moment worry, right? There's the initial response because, your kid is emotionally reacting to something that's happening right now. And then they're setting up the time and letting your kid knows, like, every night or every morning, I have this 5 minutes, right, to check in. And in that moment, it's a safe space. It's a place where I can share how I'm feeling, and all of that helps too. Because a lot of times in the moment, you're kind of an investigator. Like especially for our little ones, they don't, even our older teenagers, like they don't really know what they're feeling, and they're trying, like, they just know they're anxious and worried about, right, like about something. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it, or they don't know what it actually, they say, it's a tornado, but it's really not a tornado, right? There's something, and you can't in the moment dig, but in that quality time, you're still taking action. They know they have that with you. And that, I think that is absolutely,
that does work. Like, because sometimes we're talking about, like, oh my God, do they have the weight of the world? Sometimes it's just a little worry. Yeah. For instance, like the other day, I was cutting his youngest's hair, and he was very worried. He was like,
what are you doing to me?
Like he was processing all these worries, and we were sitting on the back porch, and I just looked him right in the eye and I said, you know what? I love you. I will never hurt you. I promise you I'm going to do the best job I can do, and I'm going to take very good care of you. And he just took a deep breath, and he was like, okay, ready.
Which was probably the best way to do it, not the Max, you had like 35 haircuts. What is the issue, man? Did not help.
Those words have come out of my mouth, to be fair, Tim. I've been there. Yes, totally. Or I'll give you an example in my household, and sort of the steps, once I read the science, when I positively responded to a worry. But it is May, right? And so storms will kind of roll. It's summer storms, right? They'll roll in, roll out type of thing. And again, my son is very anxious and worried about tornadoes. And so we were doing an activity on the back deck, trying to do his schoolwork, and dark clouds rolled in, and I could just see him like I could feel, right? And he started like looking up, and in the past, my reaction would be like, look, it's not like rationalized, right? it's not going to storm. It's okay. Like nowhere on the weather, this is supposed to be my phone with the weather report. Like nowhere on there is there thunder. You're fine. Just like kind of the, like, I know you're worried about it, but to sort of snap out of it response to it. This time around, I paused because a lot of that was my own, like I was bringing myself into it. I wasn't distancing, right? There's something called emotional self-distancing that you actually have to do that psychologists recommend as a parent. You got to take yourself out of it as well, because it's not about me, right? It's annoying to me in the moment, or I'm frustrated, but it's not about me. It's about my kid, right? And so I took a pause, which is very hard for me to do, like, because I initially have to react to things. Again, my kids come by everything very honestly. And like took a deep breath myself. I remained calm. I acknowledged, like, I can tell that you're very worried about the clouds coming in and that there could potentially be a storm coming. And what should we do right now? Do you want to continue doing the schoolwork, or what would make you feel right? Like I took what would make you feel safe? I want to go inside. Okay, let's go inside. We go inside. I could tell he's still, okay, what do you want? Like I can tell Gabriel, you're still, again, usually at this point I'd be like, dude, it's not going to rain. Like, it's fine. Right. And I just like, kind of get like with I wouldn't say get over it, but like, you're fine. You're fine. Like, we're safe. We have a house. Do you know how lucky you are to have a house? Like, I go into these things that are not helpful. And instead, I was like,
valuable, because, it's like the same principle we talk about all the time. Like when Tim tells me to calm down, it's like, that's an approach. And does it ever work? When you not to worry or tell somebody to calm down.
I know, Mira. I know it doesn't work.
It does not work.
I mean, I do it all the time to my, it doesn't work. And I hate when my husband says it to me, and yet I do it also, right? Calm down. And so much so, to be clear, Tim, that Miles literally in his toddler voice, calm down, mama. Calm down, mama. I'm like, oh God, I must say it so much that my 2-year-old literally said, calm down, mama.
He'll learn.
But we, in that moment, like we built a like tornado fort. And like he hunkered down in his tornado fort. He felt safe, right? He was enclosed. We sat in there and we continued his schoolwork. It never would have occurred to me, kind of sadly, probably before reading, I was like, oh, right. Like I paused, I took myself out of it. I acknowledged it. I was still kind and comforting, and I took action, which means that like I was showing him like, this is a real thing for you in this moment. And so I think that there's sort of how you respond in the moment and how we respond to worries of our kids, big or small, haircut, tornado, or death of a father. I mean, all of these are very legitimate things that our kids are feeling. And oh, by the way, let's throw a pandemic in it, right? Uncertainty, unknowns. Sorry, go ahead, Keri.
This is a beautiful transition. We've got to get to our next guest, but worrying about other big things that are happening as well with, Ahmaud Arbery, and how some of the kids are dealing with and processing that, which is a very big worry for a lot of our kids. So I think this is going to be really helpful today. This is powerful stuff, and we can find it the complete tip on preparedforsuccess.org. And we're so grateful. We're going to put this up again, as we always do, on the Facebook.
Put it up. Today's the long week with me and my kids. It's not the short week. It's not the Wednesday through Saturday morning. It's the Wednesday through Sunday night week with my kids, and I'm going to be taking Mira's tips and using it.
Yes. Thank you both. I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mira.
Thank you for being with us. Mira Brown from preparedparents.org, joining us live from Austin, Texas. Thank you so much for being with us. Our next guest, as I mentioned, a powerful lady, and we're just so excited to have her with us. Nekima Levy Armstrong. She is a powerhouse. She is a renowned civil rights attorney. She's the executive director of the Wayfinder Foundation. She is a mama on a mission, and she is here for justice and in all sorts of ways, in education, economics, fighting for our communities and fighting for us nationally. We are so excited to have her with us, and hopefully she can give us some wisdom as our kids are worried about a whole host of things on the regular, in the middle of a pandemic, having so much thrown at us. Extraordinary to have her perspective and her lens with us. So Nekima, thank you so much for being with us. We're so excited. You're joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. How are things in Minnesota? We have so many friends there. We love checking in with your community. How's it going?
Well, there's a lot going on here. As you know, there is a great time of uncertainty with everything that's happening with COVID-19. But in the midst of that, as parents in Minneapolis, we are grappling with significant changes that our school board is trying to make. They have essentially proposed something called a comprehensive district design plan that will completely overhaul Minneapolis public schools. It'll be expensive. It'll shuffle kids around, thousands of children, and they're trying to make this decision. They're planning to make this decision today. So it's anxiety on top of anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of a pandemic where you cannot get the community to stand up and make sure their voices are heard because we're all, told to stay at home. It's stunning that they choose this time to really, try to push forward to do this. Your overall perception of this as a political strategy. What are you thinking about, and what has the conversation been like there?
Well, it's been tumultuous in terms of just the tension, the dialogue, some of the stress that's going on that parents are experiencing. We have tried to reason with the school board members about making such an important decision at a time like this. But it seems that the majority of school board members are in favor of moving forward on really what is a half-baked plan that keeps changing and where there's a lack of clarity. And there will be a significant amount of disruption. So I'm honestly not sure what they're thinking and why any responsible elected official would move forward with a plan like that at a time like this. So we've had to organize, we've had to demonstrate. We actually had a car parade on Friday in front of Minneapolis Public Schools building. We've had virtual town hall forums to make sure that our voices are being heard. So we've literally done all that we could do to try to get the point across that this is not the right time for such a significant shift when no one knows what schools are even going to look like in the fall.
Yeah, I think that is what is so crazy about this whole thing, is pushing forward with the plan where we are having to reimagine what education is going to look like, period. We don't even know if kids are going to be able to go into public school buildings, period. Kulia Pringle, from your neck of the woods, who is a part of our leadership team here of the National Parents Union, has been talking about, whether or not parents are trusting, the systems in the best of time, let alone in post-COVID-19 times. And this is a perfect example of how they just don't get it. They do not understand. But I got to say, so proud of the parents and the advocacy and what you guys are doing. A lot of the time, people think we can't walk and chew gum. And I really think a lot of our elected officials have got it twisted because they think because we're, sheltering in place in our homes, that we're trying to educate our babies, trying to, if we have a job, hold on to it. If you're lucky enough to be able to work from home, figuring all that stuff out, that we're not paying attention and they can pull this kind of stuff on us, under the cover of darkness, without our collaboration, without our participation, without our approval, and just implement a policy on our children without our consent. So we got to say, I don't know what's going to happen because frankly, in this virtual, advocacy world, it's easy for some of our policymakers to say, oh, well, I didn't see it or I didn't hear it. But you guys are fighting, you are relentless, and we are just so inspired by the work that you are doing in this moment. So that's incredible, absolutely incredible work.
Thank you. That's the best thing that has come out of this process. Having parents from all across the city, different walks of life, some parents who speak different languages, who didn't grow up here in the United States, all coming together and standing in solidarity to challenge this plan. It's been powerful to witness and powerful to be a part of it.
And what I love about this, and I feel like you guys, we are sisters in service and in spirit, because, we are always the parents they say don't care, that don't show up. We're the Black and brown parents, we're the low income parents, we're the parents that are not showing up on their terms and not conforming to their system of parent engagement. They got a lot to say about us. and they don't want to listen. But, you know, when we organize and show the power of what we can do when we come together, like this is an important lesson. That's why I'm so grateful you're on with us this morning to show to parents across this country, it is possible to come together and fight for justice for our children. And make sure that they are put at the center of the priorities in the conversation, because that's where they got this twisted. You know, it's always, it seems like in these fights, we are pit against, you know, folks that are hell-bent against putting our children first, always the wants of adults over the needs of children. So Nekima, tell me more about these parents and how you were able to bring them together during this moment of craziness and sheltering at home. Like, how'd you actually do it and get folks on board with, you know, showing up for a virtual rally and getting engaged? How did it happen?
Well, part of it has to do with the folks who've been engaged on this issue for quite a while. So once the district started putting out this plan piece by piece, little by little, parents started organizing, you know, in their own way. And as we were shifting into the pandemic, that's when I really started to hone in on what was happening in the Twin Cities surrounding this issue, because I'm a part of litigation called Cruz Guzman, which is a major case here. And I am co-counsel on behalf of 3 charter school interveners. So we're in the midst of that case. We're in the midst of mediation. And suddenly, as things started to slow down, I was able to pay closer attention to what was happening with the CDD, the Comprehensive District Design Plan. And as I saw what was going on, I started reaching out to folks who are part of the Racial Justice Network, which is a grassroots group of folks. We have an education committee, and we said, let's weigh in on this and let's get involved. So the first thing that we did was to launch a petition through change.org. And we were framing this issue in terms of the unconscionability of moving forward in a pandemic. And so, and then we also talked about the fact that there hadn't been an equity audit. So the district had used the language of equity as a way of selling this plan to people, because folks are so thirsty and desperate to see change, because Minneapolis Public Schools has a long history of failing Black and brown children and children with special needs. And we said, you know, you can't just tack some language onto a plan that really is not equitable. So our petition.
Now, okay, they slap the word equity on, and it means nothing. It means absolutely, it means whatever they want it to mean in that moment to give them cover. So I love it. So tell me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like, again, like this is stuff that folks pull across this nation. And I want you to know that, like, it's no different here in Boston or in Florida or in California or Washington State. They're trying this slapping of the word equity. I don't think they know what it means or how to get it done, but boy, do they love to use it.
Absolutely. You know, and it looked like a slap in the face to see this word placed on this plan without anything to back it up. No solid academic plan as to how they're actually going to achieve equity and close the gap. And the plan was really centered around shaving off some transportation costs, like 6 to 8 million. So you're going to shuffle thousands of kids around the district in the name of equity, really to save transportation costs. It made no sense to me. And so we launched this petition. And so far we have over 3,200 people who have signed this petition, calling for a delay of the CDD and actually calling for a real authentic equity audit, right? Which the district is already supposed to do, something called an EDIA, which is an equity assessment that's supposed to happen every time a major policy change takes place that's going to impact the allocation of resources. They have not done an EDIA on the full CDD. And so we said, you know, that's not acceptable. So once the petition got out there, parents started reaching out saying, you know, we want to collaborate. We want to figure out how to advocate even in the midst of a pandemic. And so from there, we talked about this notion of finding ways to make our voices heard. And we figured that a virtual town hall where thousands of people could tune in is one way to do that. So we formulated our own panel with parents, with teachers, with advocates, and it wound up having over 7,000 views. So that lets you know how engaged people have been in terms of paying attention to this issue. People were able to comment. We know that some school board members tuned in as well. We've been working with the media. And then ultimately, doing Twitter town hall forums. And then just last Friday, we did the car parade. So we have 50 to 60 car loads of families, because we encourage people to bring their children as well, who participated in the car parade. They held signs, and we decorated the lawn of the Minneapolis Public School building, as well as the glass, with our sign saying delay the CDD, and talking about the challenges with the disruption that this new plan is going to cause. So it was really powerful.
You know what? And this is the conversation I needed this morning, because let me tell you something that is happening here in Boston. We just had an audit of the Boston Public Schools. And so we know pre-COVID times, like, things were really difficult. We have about 132 schools here in the Boston Public Schools. About 45 of them need to be taken over. It is a disaster, an absolute disaster in this district. And they are using this pandemic as a reason not to move forward with a memorandum of understanding between the state and the district to avoid intervention, because this district just needs to be taken over. It is a hot mess. They do not do anything unless they are under federal court order when it comes to equity. I mean, going back to the 70s, I mean, this is generational institutional racism that has existed here forever. And so we have been sitting here thinking about, how do we hold their feet to the fire? How do we, I'm going to steal your tactics, girl. That's what I'm going to say. I think we need a town hall here to hold them accountable to that audit, that equity audit that we just had done here. We know where all the problems are. We need to hold their feet to the fire, the state and the city, frankly. Folks scrambling, saying, oh, there's nothing we can do now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot they can do. And we are expecting an equity-infused educational recovery plus. We don't want to just go back to the status quo. We want them going back and taking a hard look at that audit and pivoting to make sure that whatever recovery looks like post-COVID-19, that it is equity infused and it is based in data and outcomes for our children. So I'm stealing from you, girl. We're stealing from Minneapolis. We got to get on this. This is fire.
Well, parents around the country should be looking at this pandemic as an opportunity to reshape the future of our public education systems, right? So while we know there's anxiety that's very real, there's stress that's very real, there's uncertainty that's very real, we don't have to stop there. We can think about now, how with all of this uncertainty do we turn things around? Do we begin to channel that energy into something that is going to benefit our children in the short and long run?
Well, Nekima, I'm so grateful for you this morning and your advice and your wisdom and keeping us up to date what's happening there. I'm wondering if you might be kind to me as a mama here this morning. I'm struggling. We're talking about worry this morning, and our kids have big worries. They have everyday worries. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're concerned about, all kinds of things as adults, and certainly that gets reflected in our kids. They've got big worries, but for kids like yours and mine, like, the worry gets kind of compounded when we have, situations coming up in the news. And, I keep saying, in this broadcast that, racism didn't take a break because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And boy, did we ever see that and get hit between the eyes with it last week with Ahmaud Arbery. And, I know we didn't bring you on to talk about this, but I'm just asking for your guidance as a leader, a fighter for justice, all of your experience and your heart. I'm having a hard time. I always have a hard time having conversations with my babies, especially I've been talking a lot about my Miles, who is very sensitive. He's also the darkest of my babies. And he has a lot of feelings about being the darkest of all of us. And, we always have to have these tough conversations with our kids because of who they are growing up in the world and what they have to face, and our responsibility as parents of Black and Latino children to have to prepare them for an unjust world. When these things come up, and you have to have conversations with your kids about this. Sometimes as a mama, I don't always have the words, to explain, these situations. So could you walk us through? Could you be kind to me as a mama and try to walk me through, like, I'm not an expert on, on these conversations with our kids. But what advice would you give to mamas that have to have conversations with their kids about, just the absolute disgusting nature of what can happen in our society as a result of racism and these tough moments that we face?
Well, I'm glad that you brought up this conversation, because I'm sure that it's on the minds of many parents who are having to now have these conversations surrounding racism and white supremacy with their children. I think that it's actually an opportune time for this conversation, because most of the time the world is moving so fast and we have so much responsibility that it's actually hard to slow down and take the time to unpack some of this information. So I think depending upon the age of the child, that will determine how deep you go into some of the history surrounding white supremacy. And, this actually also invoked the lynching era for a lot of Black people, because they felt that what happened to Ahmaud Arbery was a modern day lynching. For my children, I have shown them documentaries since they were young. We've had ongoing conversations, and I have used those documentaries, books, and stories to supplement their education so that they would have a stronger sense of their identity in the world, and they would know that the rules are different for Black and brown children. That's very important to share with our kids. And for white parents who are watching, part of this is having white parents understand their responsibility in educating their children about oppression and the role that white people have played in perpetuating oppression and injustice, and how within a given white family, the cycle stops here, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, most of the burden is on us as Black and brown people to protect our children and protect our families, but there's very little, if any, burden placed on white families to take responsibility for some of the things that have been happening and to proactively and intentionally educate their children about becoming anti-racist. So that's another avenue of what can happen, in the midst of this situation that we're dealing with.
It's been an unprecedented opportunity for us, and this has been part of our conversation on this broadcast. We are now the curators of what our children learn, because school is in our homes, and having that opportunity, I mean, Coolio was talking to us from the very beginning about introducing Afrocentric curriculum, and we're introducing Latino heritage, and having that space to say, like, this is why mommy does this, and this is our ancestors going back 7 generations back. We are the manifestation of all of their, like, really being able to have that conversation about why we are who we are, and how that came to be, and how important our culture is. It's a unique moment. It's a challenge, but an opportunity. And, it's been a beautiful moment, but it can also be a painful moment. And I think it's so powerful what you just said about how we all have a responsibility to have those tough conversations, because Lord knows, our kids pick it up, from the beginning. It was a very funny evolution, the presidency of Donald Trump, waking up that morning. My kids had never, to my children, when you think president, you think of a Black man. You don't think of, Donald Trump. So it was a very stunning day. And then the idea that, do we have to leave now because Donald Trump doesn't like brown people? He's going to know, he's going to know, he's going to see us. And do we have to leave? Like, it would. And even at a very young age, like going back when they're 5, 6 years old, they get this and see this. So you got to confront it, you got to address it, and these conversations aren't always easy, but they are necessary, because going back to worry, they're thinking about this stuff even at a very young age, and it's our job as mamas to prepare them to go out into the world, even though the world may not be what we want it to be. So I think that's really powerful. Nekima, any last words of wisdom that you would share with parents? It's a tricky moment where we're trying to figure out, just how to kind of navigate, this world of advocacy and standing up while we're trying to be so protective of, just trying to make it through. Sometimes the struggle is difficult even in the best of times. So do you have any words of inspiration, for parents across the country watching right now that, want to stand up and continue to fight, but maybe a little tired in this moment?
Mm-hmm. I would encourage parents to involve their children, in what's happening. Of course, you have to use your judgment in terms of what you think that they're ready for. But the reality is that we often underestimate what our children already know. They have access to technology. Sometimes they see the news before we do. So we have to now realize that they are already being exposed to a lot. So how do we, understanding that, take that knowledge and that information and proactively apply it? So when we had the car parade that I referenced earlier, we intentionally made that a kid-friendly event. And we told parents, bring your children. And so when we saw the parade of cars going by, there would be children holding the sign saying, delay the CDD, hanging out the windows, just, going slowly, but involved as young activists in standing up for themselves and their peers as well and telling their stories. And I think that kids felt empowered, to see smiles on their parents' faces and to know that they could be active catalysts in pushing for change.
I think that's so powerful. And I got to say, we see this in our own home here. We got kids who are after us to start Massachusetts Kids United and the National Kids Union. Like, they're ready to go. They watch us. They see.
Right.
And, it's our job to kind of guide them to that. And, that warms my heart, and again, I'm so glad. I feel like you're a kindred spirit, and it does my heart good here in Boston to know that, there are mamas across this country that are standing up and doing this tough work. We see you, we celebrate you, and we're just so proud of you. And if there's anything we can do out of solidarity, you tell us. And we are right there for you 100%. Nekima Levy Armstrong joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We love Minnesota. We love the Minnesota Parents Union. We love Cooley Pringle. We love all our friends, and it's so wonderful to make this connection. So keep fighting, girl.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful to see you. Another edition of the National Parents Union broadcast.
That was awesome.
Man, it was incredible. I love her.
That was
She
incredible.
inspired.
That's right.
It really does your heart good to know that, we're not alone in this fight.
Nope.
And that's what the National Parents Union is all about. It's all about, organizations from across the country finding solidarity, best practices. I got to tell you something, Massachusetts, you better watch out, because I think we're going to do a town hall. We're going to do our own damn town hall
We will do
on
it.
the Boston Public Schools.
Sounds good to me.
Will. And, shots fired, 7,000 views. Let's make it 10, Boston. We're going to get some eyeballs on this town hall.
That's right.
We got work to do today, Tim.
I know. Oh, man. Sure. Why
Nekima
not?
got you in trouble now. We're going to
Bummer.
have a busy
Thanks,
day.
Nakima. Can't wait to have you back.
We are so glad that you were with us on this beautiful Tuesday. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It'll be Wednesday, another day of the pandemic. Does it matter what day?
No.
Doesn't matter.
Well, thanks to everyone who chimed in. Thanks to, Vivette. I see Kelly Williams-Ballar's on there. She's on fire. Tashfir. Everyone who jumped in today to give their feedback and support. And you know what? If you get a chance today, by the way, speaking of support, because he supports us, the Black Wall Street Times is trying to hit 5,000. They need 5,000 more views to hit 1 million.
Are you kidding me?
Right? So jump on Black Wall Street Times Facebook, support that wonderful organization and the incredible man, Nehemiah Frank. Go do that right
he's
now.
He's extraordinary. He's going to get to 1 million today.
That's
Come
right.
on,
You better.
Nehemiah.
You better.
One of the hearts.
That's right.
The
He's
absolute
pretty
hearts
incredible.
of our organization. We love him so
That's right.
much. So today's a million view day for him.
That's right.
My God.
Everyone,
All right.
have a nice day.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.